Hello, classmates. My name is Cynthia, and I am an immigration settlement worker from Diversity Resource Society. In the next 5 minutes, I will present a recommendation report entitled Conversation of Culture Among Immigrant Families with Young Children. This report was intended for Mr. and Mrs. Mario Reyes, newly landed immigrant parents from the Philippines with one young child, 5-year-old Maria. According to Statistics Canada's 2016 data, Canada is one of the most diverse countries in the world with at least 1.2 million recent immigrants from 2011 to 2016.
Although the Philippines is only third in terms of total immigrant population in Canada, from 2011 to 2016, the Philippines is slowly catching up by being the top country of birth of recent immigrants.
The government acknowledges that this diversity has played an important role in Canada's formative history, and preserving the immigrants' cultural heritage keeps their integrity as people. However, many immigrant children seem not to know their cultural heritage because they either forget it or because it was not taught to them. In fact, according to Statistics Canada's 2016 data, 63.5% of the population whose mother tongue was neither English nor French reported speaking English at home. To address this problem, the Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Canada, or IRCC, have partnered with our agency, Diversity Resource Society, to help new immigrants assimilate to the Canadian culture while conserving their home country's rich cultural heritage. The report that was presented to the Reyes family aims to assert the importance of conserving the Filipino culture among new Filipino immigrants with young children. The report covered the following topics: importance of teaching the Filipino culture to young Maria while living in Canada, the major opportunities to celebrate the Filipino culture, the possible ways to integrate the Filipino culture to Maria's everyday life, and lastly, recommendations on how Mr. and Mrs. Reyes can help Maria in conserving their culture while living in Canada. Here is how this research was developed. First, the intended audience, which is the Reyes family, was referred by IRCC to our agency. Second, I invited the Reyes family to learn more about them and assess how my agency can help them. Third, I worked with the Reyes family, and one of the issues that was identified is how to conserve their child's Filipino culture while living in Canada. Fourth, with the help of government websites, peer-reviewed journals, and other studies, I was able to understand more about the importance of conserving one's cultural heritage while living in a new country. Fifth, using the internet, I further researched for opportunities that Filipino Canadians do and can do to preserve their ethnic identity while living in Canada. This includes cultural events, exhibits, local community gatherings, and Filipino practices. Lastly, I formulated some recommendations in conserving cultural heritage that are tailored fit for the Reyes family. In conclusion, my research showed that the Reyes family acknowledges the importance of conserving their child's Filipino culture. However, as newly landed immigrants, they could use some ideas as well as endorsements to the local Filipino organizations. My agency, Diversity Resource Society, has recommended the following to the Reyes family: reading age-appropriate books that explore the Filipino culture and traditions to Maria, like The Paglalayag sa Tadhana or Sailing to Destiny by Carla Pasis, a story about the love for family. Using the Filipino language as a primary means of communication at home, especially now that Maria regularly goes to school. Be involved in school activities because it can serve as a bridge between their home and host countries. Bringing Maria to cultural gatherings to form and maintain a relationship with other Filipinos in their community. Lastly, bringing Maria to cultural exhibits that showcase artifacts from their home country. As a summary, newly landed immigrant parents Mr. and Mrs. Maria Reyes were provided a recommendation report to help their 5-year-old child Maria conserve her Filipino cultural heritage while living in Canada. In addition, I also endorsed the Reyes family to a local community center for them to have a more sense of belongingness. They are now in touch with Mr. Juan de la Cruz of the Bayanihan Filipino Cultural Center, who provides them with more resources. Again, this is Cynthia, and thank you so much for listening to this presentation.